Hello everyone, this is a video about Snow White. I'm not going to discuss the new movie. First, I haven't watched it, and if I'm totally honest with you, Snow White is not my favorite tale. However, what is very interesting for me, and that is why I'm making this video for you, is that I'm interested in the history behind Snow White. Is there any theories that Snow White was inspired by a real historical character? The answer is yes, and that's what we're going to discuss today. But first of all, what is the story of Snow White? And why is it so interesting? Well, the Grimm fairy tale gets obviously a new interpretation with the Disney's version of Snow White and what people really know about Snow White. The Grimm tale is a much darker story. But basically the story is this. It's the story of a young teenager who's very beautiful and named Snow White. Her wicked stepmother and queen is so jealous of Snow White's beauty that she's going to order the murder of her innocent stepdaughter. But what happens is that Snow White is going to escape and she's not going to die. Later on, the queen is going to discover that Snow White actually escaped and is still alive, hiding in a cottage with 7 friendly little miners. She's then going to do everything she can to ensure that Snow White is going to die, and she's going to go there, offer her an apple, a poisoned apple. Snow White's going to eat it, and she falls into a death-like sleep that can only be broken by a love kiss. And then a prince is gonna happen, kiss her, and it is a happy ending. Well, there's lots of things that are very wrong with that tale. Like so many things that are wrong. The fact that we pit against one another 2 women who are equally beautiful, that the fact that a woman who's older is jealous of a younger one, of a teenager's beauty. Can we talk about this a little bit? Like, how wrong is this? And obviously everything else, the fact that, because she's so beautiful, the guards are not gonna actually kill her, so she's gonna escape, like the whole thing. And then that the queen is gonna transform herself into this little woman, again, wicked, almost like a witch type, and offer this apple and all the symbolism behind the apple, and behind, you can talk about Adam and Eve and the original scene, and all of this is just so interesting. That tale is very, very interesting. But for me, what is even more interesting is that there are some theories, and disclaimer here, lots of scholars disagree with, especially one theory, but I still thought that it would be interesting to give you maybe a glimpse of one of the women who actually might have inspired the tale. So let's do this. Well, there's lots of theories about the possible origins of the tale. There are discussions that there are different folklore tales that might have inspired Snow White. They often say that it's not just one tale that inspired Snow White, but many. But in the 1980s, 1990s, some German authors suggested that a fairy tale could have been inspired by a real person, a real historical person, a woman who actually lived in the 16th century. Heged Sander, a teacher, claimed that the inspiration was actually Margaretha von Waldeck, a German countess born in 1533, like Elizabeth I. How can I not make a video about that? And that even several other women in her family inspired characters in Snow White. And these theories are mostly, dismissed by scholars, but I think it's still a way for us to discuss a woman who lived in the 16th century and discuss her life, because it's quite a tragic life. And I'm sorry, but if you don't see the parallels between Snow White and her, I mean, they do exist. Margaret von Waldeck was born in 1533, as I told you, and she died in 15 March 1554. She's only 21 years old, 21 years old. We don't really know when she was born. So already we have a young woman. She's the daughter of Philip IV of Waldeck-Windenberg and his first wife, Margaret Saxena. According to the sources, the historical sources, the primary sources, she's praised for being extremely beautiful. However, her mother is going to die and she's going to have a stepmother. And it's from 1539. Her very strict stepmother was Katharina von Hatzfeld. And so here and there are records of Katharina being very strict stepmother. So then again, historians have speculated that it might be because she was daughter of another woman. It can be hard sometimes for stepmothers to bond. Not all, some are great stepmothers, obviously, and bond really well with the children. But sometimes it is hard. There's a bit of a sense of rivalry or like a lack of attachment for the child. And it's what is believed in the sources, that she was very strict. Now that she's not an evil or wicked queen, but in the sources she's not an easy person to deal with, and she's not particularly nice to Margaretha. What is so interesting about Margaretha is her life, and the way that though she only lived 21 years, she travelled. And she spent some time with her mother's brother, Johan, at Wenkelburg Castle. So she's someone who's not going to stay at home with her father and her stepmother. In 1549, her father decided to send her to the Brussels court of Mary of Hungary, governor of the Habsburg Netherlands and sister of Charles V. If you allow me, I'm going to make a parallel with one of my favorite historical characters, Anne Boleyn, who was sent to Margaret of Austria's court. Also, the aunt of Charles V. And it's so interesting as well that you have this kind of connection, I just think, that of these women who are going to spend some time in Brussels. So they're going to go there for a very good education. Obviously, the fact that he sent his daughter there was also a diplomatic ploy, because there were some tensions between him and another nobleman, Philip I, Landgrave of Hesse. So obviously it's all about diplomatic relations within the German countries, German realms, but also with the Holy Roman Empire. Something I think is so interesting is that when she's at court in Brussels, she gets the interest of many suitors. One of them being Charles V's son, Philip, the future Philip II of Spain, future husband of Mary I of England, future husband of Elizabeth of Valois, daughter of Catherine de' Medici and Henry II. And he's in, well, there are records of him completely passionate about Margaretha, which goes with this kind of that she was a real beauty, that she really, people were drawn to her. So the story goes that he pursued Margaretha during the few months he was there, and because she was a Lutheran, there was no real, idea of him and her being able to get married. But again, I just think that it is so interesting that we have so many connections to the woman who might have inspired one of the biggest tales that we know. Unfortunately, lots of things didn't go right for Margaretha. 3 surviving letters showed that Margaretha wrote to her father and explained that her health was declining, and she died at the age of 21, as I said, in 1554 in Brussels. So her life is quite dismissed, and the reason why there are some claims that she might have been an inspiration for Snow White is because of her bad strict relationship with her stepmother, the fact that she was sent away, obviously no one is trying to kill her, and the fact that she was a great beauty. There's another reason, is because the fact that her health was declining. Some people said she might have been poisoned, and so there's again another link. But her stepmother died in 1546, so it could not have been her stepmother. So you see, there are some, I think, interesting ideas. I think, do I think that she's the real Snow White? No, but I also think that all tales are obviously inspired by stories, inspired by historical characters. And yes, I think she might be, or might have been one of them, one of these women that inspired the tale of Snow White. And I just think that it's so interesting to have this woman, you know, who lived also such a short life, but met so many great names in the 16th century. And here I'm obviously referring to Mary of Austria, but also Philip II, who pursued her. Let me know in the comments what you think about Snow White. Who do you think inspired the tale? And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my little video on Margaretha. Thank you. Bye.